Hello, this is Geraldine Clement-Stoneham, and I'm welcoming you to the new edition of SLA Europe podcast. Tonight, I'm joined by my fellow podcaster Dennie Heye from Holland, and also by a very special VIP guest, Deb Hunt, who is connecting with us all the way from California. And Deb Hunt is the other candidate to pres-elect position for the SLA Association. The election will be taking place later this year. So Deb Hunt, to give you a little bit of background about Deb, she is the principal of Information Edge, which empowers clients to find the information they need to do their work. Information Edge specializes in enterprise content management, knowledge services, professional research, and library design and automation. Deb has been a member of SLA for quite a long time, since 1986, and served in various roles, including on the board of director from 2008 to 2010. She's also been very active in her local chapter, the SLA San Francisco Bay Region chapter. I have to say that when I read about SLA San Francisco Bay Region chapter, it makes me dream of California beach and all of that. But that's not what we're about to talk about. Today we're really interested in hearing Deb's sort of ideas about how she would change, transform, continue SLA's tradition if she was to be elected. So Deborah, welcome to SLA Europe podcast.
Thank you for having me.
I'll start straight with our first question, if I may. We'd be really interested to hear, and I'm sure all our listeners would as well, a bit more about what SLA represents to you. You've obviously been a member for quite a long time, and what it represents, but also why it matters.
Okay. Well, like many SLA members, when I entered this profession, I was actually quite young, and I had little in the way of leadership skills, and I had a very small professional network, and mostly those were my fellow students. But as I volunteered at the chapter and division level, I learned so much about being part of a team, about collaborating, and about networking. And then as I moved on to chairing committees and being a chapter president, I added delegation, organization, and mentoring to my skill set. And then on the SLA board of directors, I learned about working for the good of the association as a whole. SLA has also offered me many professional development opportunities that have provided me with an exciting and varied career. And last but not least, I've learned so much from my colleagues in SLA. Many of them have become good friends. And what I've found is by giving to SLA, I've gotten so much in return.
Okay, Deb, thanks for that introduction. And probably as a candidate, you have ideas what SLA should start doing when you are elected.
Okay, yes, I do. I think one of the things we need to do is look at how other associations are thriving in this economic environment, and then we need to learn from that. Then we need to make some tough decisions about what works best for SLA and its members so that we are sustainable both as an association and as a profession. And additionally, professional development, I believe, is a high priority for our members. But the model of pre-conference continuing education courses isn't working well. In the last few years, we've had low enrollment, and a lot of the courses have been canceled. ClickU has a new model or a newer model of low-cost webinars, such as the one that Rebecca Jones recently did, and that just costs $49 for members. And the Illinois chapter did a webinar also where they had a guest speaker, and that webinar was just $10. So these low-cost webinars sell out, and they are just what our members need and at a cost that they can afford. And, of course, this venue of podcasts for the SLA Europe chapter provides valuable continuing education for members at no cost and in 15-minute segments that most members have time to listen to. Another thing I would change is I recently did a presentation for the Silicon Valley chapter about the SLA website. And it is so deep and full of information that most members do not realize what is there for them. So we need to make the website easier to navigate and then utilize analytics for what is used and what is not used so that we can right-size the site.
I'd like to pick on one thing that you said right early when you started, which I think for me resonated a lot, which is you gave a lot to SLA, but you got so much back.
Mm-hmm.
And in the context of trying to convince maybe the new generation to embrace being a member of an association, which normally involves paying fees and so on,
Mm-hmm.
how would you kind of explain that I got so much back?
Well, I get asked that quite frequently, especially about students, because here in the Bay Area we have San Jose State University has a library school, and even though a lot of the students are distance, they're not geographically in this area. We do have several local members that come to our meetings, and I get asked that all the time, or what association should I join, or why should I join SLA? And of course, it's not just the students, it's also other colleagues that I'm in other associations with, and I tell them they get so much back, membership wise, dollar wise. SLA spends over $400 to sustain each member. That's annually, and of course memberships range from $40 to $200 a year. So that model isn't quite working. SLA is working on that to make it more equitable. But I think that the membership, what we get back, things like SLA's 23 Things, Future Ready blog, which is such a great venue for collaboration and learning and sharing, and the opportunity to network both in person and virtually, and to go to the annual conference. I know that's an extra expense, but for most of the years that I've attended, I've gone on my own dime, because I believe for me it's an opportunity to have face-to-face time with my colleagues and also with some of the keynote speakers I would never get to interact with. And I learned so much that I take back to my profession, and being an independent information professional, I'm doing that as an entrepreneur, but all of us, having been in libraries, we're entrepreneurs, and we need to be able to learn and continually learn. And also the opportunity to give back just is priceless to me and invaluable. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, yes, definitely, yes. And I think you touched on something interesting. We're being so near to the conference, and I'm really looking forward to it. And the bit about keynote speakers, I mean, I've heard at the conference people that, I could only browse the books on my bookshelf, but actually being there in the room and being almost, it's not quite touching them, but I think it's really inspirational. And when I describe it to my manager, why am I going, and why am I prepared to pay for it myself as well? I always say it's like taking a huge tablet of vitamins, but vitamins for my profession and my job, and I can back up a million ideas.
I love that. I like that analogy. I'm going to remember that when I'm tired at the conference.
You mentioned a number of things that you'd like to see SLA to start doing, but obviously being mainly animated by volunteers like us, often choices have to be made. What should SLA stop doing?
I think the one thing, I've thought a lot about that because I get asked that question a lot, and I think sometimes we look at the past a little too longingly, thinking, oh, well, those were the good old days, but we just don't have time. I mean, it's great. We have a great legacy. We had our centennial just 2 years ago, but we really need to look to the future. The world has changed, our jobs are changing, and we need to look ahead to remain a viable organization and a profession. So I think we need to stop looking at the past and look ahead. And not only look ahead, but then have an action plan to move ahead.
Sounds good, Deb. The thing that you mentioned just a while ago was that you are an entrepreneur and that you may look differently at things. So following along that line, if you as an entrepreneur look at SLA, what should it do more of?
Okay. Well, I belong to other associations as well as SLA, and I think I see how they're recruiting members, and I think that's one of the things that SLA we really need to think outside the box about that. How can we recruit more members? We need to get the word out about what we do, who we are, and then we need to make membership an integral part of being an information professional, sort of like in order to be a really good and valuable information professional, then we need to belong to an association, and SLA is that association. I think other things is that chapters and divisions must work at recruiting students at the library technology, and iSchools. I mentioned before San Jose State University with the distance learning program. They have students scattered all over geographically, and one of the things that I think we need to work on is a way for SLA to supply to students that, or not to the chapters, that where those students are, so that they can connect and so that they can be able to recruit them, to mentor them, to get them involved so that they will be engaged and remain members as well. And the other thing I think is that we need transparency about what SLA is doing. As a member of the board, I saw how SLA staff and the board members really worked hard on important issues for a long time before they were rolled out to members. But what I also saw is sometimes we would kind of roll them out to members and they go, whoa, where'd that come from? So I think we need to make sure that the members are as comfortable with and informed about new issues as the board is.
That's quite a program and quite a detailed answer. Thank you for that. I think it does present a number of challenges, and one aspect that is particularly important for us SLA Europe is your thoughts about, SLA is an international association, but if I run the stats, I'm the membership chair for SLA Europe. If I run the stats, we're still, unfortunately, a very small part of the membership, the 9,000 or so members. What would be your plan to address this growing that membership, but internationally, and also maybe changing sometimes the perception that it's very American focused?
Okay, that's a great question. I think one of the things that just comes right to mind is more of the low-cost webinars that I mentioned before, and also having them at different times so that they are not during the middle of the night for some of our members. We tend to schedule them so they're easy for people in North America to attend during the workday, but not for other parts of the world. And I think this podcast that we're participating in is an excellent example of free but valuable professional development for members. It's just the right length, and it's in a format that makes it easy to listen to at any time, no matter where you are in the world. Another thing I'd really like to do is to poll our international members to see what they want and need from SLA. And that would be prefaced, of course, if this is what SLA is and how we want to serve you. But now we want to know what you need and what you want. And then also to find out how SLA can engage them more fully in the association. So the members that are outside of North America don't feel kind of like they're out there, outside of this North American-centric association. And I think the last thing would be to encourage more scholarships from the units, the international units, so that their members can attend conference. Because I think once that connection is made, then there's the opportunity to bring that back to the different units, no matter where they are. And of course, I would love to see a conference in another country other than BC. It's going to be up in British Columbia, I think, in 2 or 3 years.
Yes, I think we obviously would love to have one in the UK, but in the meantime, we tend to sort of try to do at chapter level sort of smaller things sort of based in the UK, but also trying to what we call piggyback on events that are taking place outside in different countries in Europe. Often we don't have enough of a membership to actually take on the organising of an event, but we've had quite a bit of success, for example, to join with a conference in Italy, in Rome, and trying to organise things where the organisation's there, but we try to participate in that way and sponsors in that way.
That's great.
I like also the idea of scholarship, and I think some of our listeners will be aware that the SLA Europe has partnered with a number of divisions to organise what we call the Early Career Conference Awards. And I have to say that I think for most of our colleagues who had the opportunity to win one of those awards, and Sarah Batts, who's the current SLA Europe president, is actually one of them. It's been a life-changing experience, I think, to be able to attend the conference. I think no one, you can try to explain as long as you like to people who've never been. It's never quite the same as being there.
You need to experience the vitamin shot, yeah.
Yes.
Deb, it's been really interesting to listen to your ideas and plans for the future, and I hope our listeners will have learn a bit more about you and your views and plans. And unfortunately, we've come to the end of our chat and conversation. So thank you very much for joining us. Thank you, Dennie, for taking care of recording, and I look forward to our next podcast edition.
Thank you both so much. I know you're volunteers. Bye-bye.